If you've ever felt like you don't belong in the gym because of how you look, then today's episode of Body Beyond the Scales is going to be for you. Welcome back to the podcast that helps you get stronger and more confident in your body through building better habits. Today, I am joined by Rhiannon Cooper, and she's going to be talking to us all about getting your confidence up in the gym if you don't conventionally feel like you belong in a gym. And without further ado, Rhiannon, who are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me, Holly. So I am the founder of Not So Typical Fitness, which has just turned 1. We've just celebrated our first birthday. And I created Not So Typical Fitness because I myself only walked into a gym 3 years ago for the first ever time. And I'm 33, turning 34. And I realized that there is a huge amount of people out there like me who just don't feel able to exist within a traditional gym environment or don't know how to prioritize their health in a way that works for them. So that's why I kind of founded Not So Typical Fitness, qualified as a personal trainer in December 2024 after pivoting my whole entire life to do this, because it's the first time ever I felt this big pull to do something that felt right for me. And here I am talking to you today. So, hello.
Hello. And what a fantastic story as well. And I think it's great to hear, one, that you didn't get into fitness at 18, or you were basically running out of the womb and off you went and straight into fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side of it as well, where you created a space that you basically space for yourself that you didn't feel like there was people talking about. So let's talk a little bit about your journey. What got you into the gym?
So, this is a long story. I'm going to give you the slightly abridged version because I could talk about this for a year, I think. So, basically, when I turned 30, just coincidentally, is when I also got my late diagnosis of autism and ADHD. And I had spent my whole life up until kind of that point thinking that I hated exercise. So, if I take you back to school, and I don't know if you have international listeners, but school in the UK, you have PE, so physical education, and you'd have to, pick teams and do these sports that you didn't really want to do. There wasn't much choice. You'd have to do cross country, or I did. And exercise wasn't something I looked forward to. I used to play on the netball team because I have a strong shot and a really good aim, but
Oh,
I
me
didn't
too.
really
Go
run.
shoot at all
Oh,
of the
really?
floor and
Yeah,
none
it's a
of the
thing.
work.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So I did that. But I hated it. I just thought, me and exercise, we are not friends. This isn't a thing I do. So me and my wife were walking in the woods one day, and at this point, so I had a horse. I don't anymore. I sold that horse, but I had a horse. I was quite kind of active. I had an active life. I'd muck out a horse all the time, be walking around, walk the dogs every day. But I was morbidly obese and mentally very unhappy. We were having a chat, me and my partner, and she was out of breath. And we were walking the dogs. And I remember thinking, you're out of breath. I'm not. I'm fitter than you. And this sort of sat with me for a little while. And I sort of realized that actually, despite the depression and anxiety that I was suffering with at the time, I didn't actually want to die early. And if I wanted to live a long and happy life, I need to work my heart, I need to work my lungs, I need to get my blood pumping around my body. And it was I couldn't remember the last time I was actually out of breath, which probably means it was back at school in those PE lessons that I hated, which would have been about 15 years ago. And so even though I guess I had a higher base level of fitness, which is why my partner was breathless and I wasn't, I was not pushing my body to be healthy. And it was that realization. I was like, I have to do something actually, because I don't want to die early. And I joined a gym because I thought, well, I need to do something. But I actually started calorie counting for about 6 months first. And I was losing weight. And then I had another kind of moment of, well, I'm not actually doing the thing I wanted to do, which was to work my body more. And losing weight for me was never actually the goal, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So it was ticking one box, but not actually ticking the box that I wanted ticking. So I joined the gym and I stayed there for about 3 months. I went to the gym almost every day, did cardio, because when you're new to the gym, cardio is safe. We all know how to press go on a treadmill. Very easy to work out. And I remember again, this kind of another day, and this person next to me on a treadmill is running. And I was only walking with purpose. And I hated it every day I went. This person's running. I remember looking at them and thinking, how is this person breathless sweating everywhere and not panicking. And then I had this like moment of realization that when I get breathless or when I feel sweaty, I feel overwhelmed and unbalanced. And actually, it makes me panic, which makes me stop. And it was like I realized no one had told me when I was younger that being out of breath is okay, because it does feel weird because you're not in control of your body. And I have a big trigger, which I've learned from therapy and my late diagnosis, that when I feel unbalanced and out of control in a mental or physical state, I shut down, I get overwhelmed, and I try and take myself away from the stimulus. So I didn't hate exercise. I hated the way exercise made my body feel. And that moment changed everything. And it made me realize, well, the thing with diagnoses, and I don't know if you know much about late diagnosis of autism or ADHD.
Not crazy
But,
amounts, so yeah, enlighten
okay,
me.
cool. So I believe it's a privilege to get a diagnosis, because when I went to my GP, I went with the thing of, I think I'm autistic, all these things that had happened, and I'd had this kind of event at work, and it's a story for another day. But I went there and I was like, I think I'm autistic. Well, there was nowhere to send me. Like, there was nowhere, not even a waiting list to put me on. There was for ADHD, so I did ADHD through Right to Choose. And I do have ADHD as well. I didn't think I did. That, again, is a story for another day.
Nice surprise.
Yeah, I mean, best of both or the worst of both, depending on how you look at it. So me and my partner had a relative pass who left us some money. And we were able to use that money to pay for me to have a private diagnosis of autism. And there will be so many people in the world that are like me, are the same as me, maybe will never be able to get a diagnosis because they don't have access to it, because they don't have the money to pay for a private diagnosis, because they don't even realize that they're autistic or neurodivergent. I've been neurodivergent for 30 years prior to that diagnosis, had no idea. I just thought I was a bit quirky. That's it. That's all I thought. And when I had that moment of realizing that the reason I don't like it and can't push my body is because of this sensory overwhelm, which is a part of my neurodivergence, so many people will never have that moment. And I want to help those people who actually, they don't hate exercise. They just don't know how to exercise or move their body in a way that feels good and a way that feels safe. And so that moment, that changed the trajectory of everything, and why I'm here today as a qualified personal trainer who didn't come out of the womb wanting to run, looking for Metcons, because fitness and me, we weren't a thing. We weren't a thing. But here I am, and I absolutely love my job. It's the best thing I've ever done. So,
Amazing. Yeah. How did you go then from being on the cardio machines and being like, okay, this person's running and is not having a complete panic, and to where you are now? Like, kind of what was the gap there from, I guess, how did you get into, say, like lifting weights? Because I'm assuming that was the next step.
Yeah, kind of. So I did about 3 months in that gym on the cardio until I had that experience or kind of realization. And I had been looking at the weight section for a while, and I did really want to try, but it was too overwhelming. And I was very early on in my diagnosis, so I was struggling to ask for help. I didn't really want to be in the gym still. It wasn't an easy place to be. It's noisy. It smells. There's bright lights. It's a lot. So I basically bought myself some dumbbells at home, and I used to follow mostly a YouTuber who I think goes by MadFit. And I
Oh,
used to
yeah,
follow
I used to
her.
follow MadFit in
Yeah,
lockdown.
cool. Yeah. So found her, and I'd be very picky. So I'd search things like beginners, dumbbell only workout at home, no jumping. Because me and jumping, I don't like to leave the ground. I can do it now, but I couldn't then. And I started at home because for me, it was building confidence. So it was, and it sounds so silly, but literally learning how heavy 3 kilos is in my hand. Because if you've never picked up a weight, you're comparing it to like a tin of beans, a pack of flour, like a bag of flour, something like that, which isn't really gym equipment. So it feels so different. And I would go to the gym and do cardio, and then like 3 or 4 times a week at home, I'd do my MadFit workout. And then my dumbbell started feeling light, and I couldn't afford to buy expensive ones or heavier ones because the price goes up. So it's like, right, I'm going to have to do something. Free weights was too scary. So dumbbells I didn't do. Barbells too terrifying, but resistance machines. So I could start there. And I had found my algorithm had decided that it would show me form videos of various influencers. And because of my autism, I'm quite good at, I don't know if it would be like smelling bullshit, but at seeing when something's done right. And so I would purposely follow one's accounts that I felt were demonstrating something that made sense to my brain in terms of the body. And so I would just go and sit on like the leg press and I'd look at how to do it and I'd take my time and I'd give it a go and did that. And then when I realized that I needed some support, I got a personal trainer. So I did make that step, went to then from a council gym, like tiny, tiny little community gym, to a much fancier, bougie, like boutique private gym and got a personal trainer there. And then that was where I guess I developed this love for lifting weights and the process sort of started there. Then I went on my own and now I'm training for strong women events. So yeah, it's been a journey, but I just love lifting heavy stuff.
Yeah, I really appreciate as well that your journey just didn't go from, oh, so one day I was not confident, and then the next day I just decided to give everything a go. And like, actually, the more like rational process to it is to start off slowly and go, okay, well, what do I feel comfortable doing now? Okay, what do I feel comfortable doing in a few weeks? Then in a few weeks' time, what do I feel comfortable doing now? And slowly just pushing your comfort zone. You don't have to go from like never stepping foot in the gym to knowing exactly what to do tomorrow. Like actually just going in and starting off and doing little bits is a good place to start.
Yeah, and just going really slow. And for me, so I think I've always been quite outgoing and I talk to people and kind of when you're autistic and a female, there's this masking thing that you do. And it's a lot of copying who you're with to kind of be able to communicate. But I could do that. It was fine. A gym environment was somewhere that was so uncomfortable to me that I couldn't just communicate within that environment. So the only way it was going to be sustainable for me was if I just like tiptoed my way in and each time just went a tiny bit further. First session with this personal trainer, I mean, I stayed with her for about 6 months, but the first ever session, she tried to get me to do mountain climbers and I broke down because it was too much of a big, like, what's the word I want? Like energetic, explosive movement for me. And that was almost really interesting because I guess I could do them now and I could do them in about 2 months after that, but it was too quick. And it
Yeah,
was again, like trying to communicate what I needed in a way when other people are involved was really challenging.
yeah.
Um, and I think I only did my first ever jumping jack like a year ago today, roughly. Like, it wasn't that long ago because it was too much. But it doesn't mean you can't. It just means you've got to get there of your own accord.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's no rush. So,
Yeah. I think like the only thing that you ever need to think about is that there's no race to get to the end. Like like what is the
yeah,
end point? Like is the end point when you have completed fitness? I don't think that's a thing. So like
yeah,
it's
no.
just keep working on your journey and you just set the milestone in front of you. Okay, the milestone is that I'm going to go check out the free weight section. The milestone is that I'm going to go, I don't know, try out some different cardio equipment. The milestone is that you use a machine or a new machine to what you've used before. Or the milestone might be that you go follow a workout, but it's starting to just do something that feels like one step outside of your comfort zone. It doesn't need to be 10 just yet. No one's asking you to enter a strong woman competition. It's just what's the one step outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah. And I think if you can do those little tiny steps, you flex that comfort zone out and then it
Yeah.
grows.
Yeah.
And it is like acting from that place of safety and then coming back to safety. And then that place of safety grows bigger. That is like the biggest thing to starting something new, I think.
Yeah. So what had been your resistance to working out before? So before you hit your 30th birthday, before you'd had your epiphany on your walk, what had been your resistance to working out?
I think genuinely, I didn't feel safe. And the way my body would, go breathless and get sweaty, I didn't feel safe in it. And I know I say it to some people and they think if they, certain gym bros online, so I get trolled a lot online, they'll be like, how did you not know being breathless was okay? When you're neurodivergent, your brain is wired differently. And sometimes like you need somebody to tell you very clearly that something is safe or not safe. then you also have to believe that person and trust them. It can be inherently hard to trust somebody because I personally can struggle to see who is kind of acting from a place of genuine care versus somebody who's trying to lead me astray. So I think for me, the resistance wasn't so much resistance to exercise. It was just trying to keep myself safe and to feel regulated, because when I get dysregulated, it's an awful place to be mentally. And so, yeah, it was like the pursuit of feeling safe, which actually makes my body not safe because I wasn't working it. So there's a horrible irony in it, but better late than never. Like 30 is better than never to realize this. So, yeah, I think I wish I had been able to have that realization earlier on, because I think there are so many things I probably didn't try because of not wanting and not even realizing. So it wasn't that I didn't realize it was that I didn't like feeling like this. I thought it was exercise. Exercise is horrible. And I would not do things because I didn't want to feel it. So I'd not go on hikes. I'd not want to go on walks, and all of those opportunities to get those good endorphins and to have a nice view and like see the world, I wouldn't want to do, because I think it was all this fear, without realizing it was a fear, of the feelings and the experiences that would come from exercise.
Yeah, it's really interesting as well that you mentioned earlier about PE and saying that like that kind of started off like the more negative relationship with exercise, or not
Mm-hmm.
enjoying exercise as much because it was very much this traditional like certain groups of people were doing certain things, and like yeah. And I think for me as well, that's where one of my biggest like hang-ups around exercise like came from. I don't know if you're familiar with like my journey, but I lost like 3 stone, and when I was in a bigger body and I exercised, I very much was out of breath, and very much to say similar to you, like I found that for me, it was more of an embarrassment. I felt like I looked unfit. And that all came from a PE lesson that I'd had where we were doing the 1,500, which was a trauma that we had to do
Oh,
every single year. I was trying to control my breathing because I was running, trying to keep up with the other girls, and I just didn't feel like I could keep up with the other girls. And there were people that were lapping me, and we were being yelled at by the PE teacher to run faster, girls. And I was trying to control my breathing. And someone turned around and said, without even sounding out of breath whilst they said this, meanwhile I'm like nearly dying behind them. And they just turned around and said, who's breathing like that? And all of a
oh,
sudden it was just, I felt like the world was like looking at me, even though there's only like what 20 to 30 of us in this PE class. Like it felt like everyone was looking at me. I felt so unfit. I felt so like embarrassed. And I think after that, I was like, right, that's it. I'm gonna get into running. And we luckily had a treadmill in my parents' house. And I think I got on that, and I didn't understand a thing about running, but just went and sprinted. And I was like, right, I'm gonna get fitter. I'm gonna like do this. And that was where kind of like the determination first set in. But that hang up still comes to me today. Like I will start to get out of breath, especially if I'm working out in public. So if I'm running in the gym especially gets me, but like I will often find that my brain just goes to, you shouldn't be out of breath, you look unfit, everyone's looking at you, you look unfit. And I have to be like, yo, no,
mm-hmm.
this is not true. And like, just like calm myself back down again. But it does come back to like, if you have got some hang-ups from PE in school, it's all right. But we need to remember that we're no longer teenagers. We're no longer sweaty teenagers that sweat over everything. We are, and it's okay to get out of breath, and like exercise isn't for one particular body type. It is for everyone if they want to exercise in that way, and being out of breath is a fine part of exercise.
Yeah, like if you watch runners in the Olympics or, whatever, Commonwealth Games, anybody doing their exercise, doing it well, is breathless. They
Yes.
are. Like they can be the Olympic gold medal winner and they're going to finish their race breathless. And how I just want to, just to your story, I'm so pleased that when that person, whoever it was, and said that thing about whose breathing is that you were able to actually then like invest in trying to improve it and like sort of making that change, because the opposite would have been that you never ran again. And you
Mm.
were like, I don't ever want to do that. And I think that says a lot about you as a character. So well done.
Thank you. It's
If
what I will
nobody's ever
prove
said it,
everybody
like,
wrong.
yeah. And so for some people, that's like the motivator.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting story, but oh yeah, I used to have to do the 1500 and it was torture. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
horrible. The teachers didn't help. So
Yeah.
yeah, nightmare.
I sometimes get, I run quite a lot now, and I sometimes get my PE teacher's voice in my head going,
Mm.
run faster, girls. And I'm like,
Yeah.
where did that come from? Who said that?
Oh, childhood trauma is
Yeah.
lovely, isn't it?
But I think, like, even if you haven't been into exercise, like when you were like a child or like in your teenage years, or even like you might be in your 30s now and you're like, I've never been into exercise, or even older, like, exactly as you said, there's no right time to start. The right time is always just going to be like now. Like, just even if you've never been into exercise before, that doesn't mean you could never be into exercise. You've just kind of got to find a bit of exercise that works and fits. So I guess we've both spoken about, well, my experience definitely, and I feel like yours too, but like exercising whilst you are not in a conventionally, like, let's go with conventionally athletic body. We'll go with the stereotypes around what like athleticism is. How
Yeah.
do you feel like you've come over that, or like how do you feel like you've gone around that? Because I feel like especially in the gym these days, there are still stereotypes of what a gym goer, quote unquote, should look like. How have you worked around that?
That has been one of the huge big battles of being within the fitness industry. Myself personally, so I lost £100 from that moment of walking the woods to I think it's probably about 18 months or a year or so, just by nutrition and going to the gym. And when I was in a smaller body, people treated me better and people were proud of me. People would say how like amazing it is that I'm doing, like what I've done is so good. And then I had this moment. Everything for me comes to these moments of like something happening, but that's life, isn't it? Things happen and you adjust. PT I had at that time, the same one. I've only had one personal trainer and now I've got a strongman coach, so it's a bit different. But she said to me one day, so I'd lost £100 and I was so happy because it was a round number and how amazing that I'd done that. But the best thing for me is that I was like enjoying the gym. And when I joined that PT and when I started the journey, it was never about losing weight. Like I said, it was always about let's be healthier. Like let's feel better in oneself. And I lost £100 and PT came in. And I don't know whether they'd had some goal setting CPD training or something, because it kind of felt a little bit unexpected. Right, we need to set you a new weight goal and we're going to make it, I think it was 12 stone was the number. And I was probably 13 something at that point. And I just suddenly felt like that's not what I want. I don't want to aim for weight loss. I want to aim for strength. And I've been developing strength. So every exercise I've been doing, every kind of weightlifting movement had been improving, but suddenly they weren't to be the goal. The goal was a weight loss goal. And I was like, oh, that's not what I want. And because mentally at that point, I didn't feel any nicer. I didn't feel any better because I was lighter. I was feeling better because I felt stronger. And then to put that all onto this idea of a weight loss goal, it actually had the inverse effect. And I lost all confidence because I was like, my life is worth more than a weight that I exist at. And I actually left that personal trainer and I left that gym because I was starting to also feel like a bit of a fraud because I wasn't doing it for the weight loss and everyone's congratulating me on this weight loss. I won an award at the gym for the biggest transformation, but it was because I lost £100. It wasn't because I could lift like this much more and I could hip thrust this and I could do that. And it was all about weight and I didn't want it to be. And what was very interesting is people would treat you better, but when I was a smaller person, so I'm going to be very transparent. I'm about £50 heavier now than I was then. So I've put about half back on. It was about 60. It's slowly coming off. I don't weigh. So I only weigh when I go to the GP because I don't like this. And it all stems from childhood trauma and bullying at school because of being bigger. I've always been bigger. So I just don't weigh. It's the way I am, which is fine. And where was I going with this? So I would be in a shop in my slimmer or slimmest body, about 13.4, something around there. And people would like bump into me. It was like people wouldn't realize I was there. And for most people, I think this is probably just normal. But having existed in a much bigger body, people treat fat people very differently. I think people think that fatness is contagious. They don't want to be near you. I don't know whether it's because they assume someone fat is lazy, doesn't shower, doesn't have a good hygiene. They don't want to sit next to you on a bus. They don't want to sit next to you on a train. They don't really want to talk to you. Like, they do treat you differently. And in a shop, I'm quite big on personal space. I don't like being touched. It's always been like that. I don't know why people didn't know I was autistic. It's very obvious looking back. But in shops, I never had this issue of where people would like bump into me. So I always had this good amount of personal space. Didn't realize it at the time, but I did until I lost that weight. And people would like be looking at something and they'd walk backwards into me, or they would it was just the weirdest thing. It's like I became invisible, but I think it's because people didn't mind being around me. And I was happier in public when people weren't near me. And so weight loss doesn't mean happier. And I think this pursuit of being this perfect weight and healthy BMI and all of this, and kind of this pressure that exists to be in a slim body, for me, didn't mean being happier. And so actually, like, I've just embraced the body that I am, and I focus now on, I still have goals, but my goals are, I want to lift heavy shit. I want to push a lot of weight. I want to win a strong women competition. And like, I want to inspire people who kind of feel like me and like, they don't feel empowered by a weight loss goal, but they might feel empowered by seeing somebody who looks a bit like me, a bit like them, doing the stuff that looks fun. Like, I want to deadlift a car. That's why I joined Strongman. I want to do that, or I want to flip a car, or I want to pull a lorry. I want to do some fun stuff. And to do that, and losing weight isn't going to help me get to that. Building strength is what's going to help me get to that. And so when people say there's this idea of health and fitness and you are not fit and you are not healthy, I'm a hell of a lot healthier actually than I was at that lighter body, because I wasn't happy. I wasn't as strong. I was existing in a body that actually didn't even feel like mine. So I'd look in a mirror, and I know you've lost some weight. So sometimes you look in a mirror and you still see that version. You could be half the size you are now and probably still see that version, because that's the body you lived in for so long. That becomes your home and your norm. And so I wasn't happy. Like, I was lighter, but I wasn't happier. And so when I see like people who say you can't be fat and fit, like, well, you can be fat and happy, and you can be fat and strong, and I can be fat and have better cardiovascular strength than someone half my size, because I'm working my body. So I think that the idea of health and fitness is a bit skewed, and too many people base it on aesthetics, and it's not about that.
I think what's really interesting there is when you talk about your habits and what you are doing habitually, especially around exercise, like, those are the habits of a healthy person. Like, and we often, I think sometimes we've just created this link that health equals leanness and health equals how small you are. And the smaller that you are, the healthier that you are. But
And the better.
health, yeah. And like, it feels almost, that you are, I guess, more morally superior, or like you are a better person, quote unquote, for being smaller. And like, I don't always think that that is the case. And like, in a lot of studies, like, I've done a lot of reading around like weight loss and like long-term weight loss maintenance. And a lot of the studies that come out, basically, if you lose 10% of your body weight, your health markers dramatically improve. Like, and if you keep off 10% of your body weight, that is classed as weight loss maintenance. So if you so say you were 100 kg, you lose 10 kg, you get down to 90 kg, and you keep that off, that is a huge step in terms of your overall health. Even if you, so say you lost 20 kg, but you actually then put 10 kg back on, that's still a huge step in terms of your health. You are still healthier than what you were before. And chances are, if you've done that, you also have the behaviors, like you are exercising regularly, you are making more nutritious choices in terms of your food quality, you are walking regularly, you are thinking about drinking more water, you are getting more sleep in. Like, and all of these factors are related, and it is your habits that make the difference to your health, not what you look like.
Yeah. And I think we as a nation, or as a group of people as well, have been subjected to things like Slimming World and Weight Watchers, where, so I did Slimming World many times growing up, and I'd had fantastic success because I was eating in a massive calorie deficit. So, and I don't eat meat, I'm vegetarian. So I also wasn't getting protein and stuff. Like, I wasn't really very healthy when I was doing that, but I lost a lot of weight. But of course, what happens is it's not a balanced way of eating. Um, and the moment I stopped, even if I tried, it would just come back because it wasn't a sustainable way of losing any weight for me. But you're right. Like, you don't have to lose enough weight to even fall into that kind of ideal BMI. If you can just lose some weight, that's better than losing none. Like, it's kind of, it's crazy that we think or not that we do, but so many people think that they have to get to that size and then they're healthy, when actually just making changes, moving more, is going to be a vast improvement than just sitting on a sofa all day if that's what you're currently doing. And I think I get told a lot that I must, drive to McDonald's after working my shift every day because look at me. But the reality is I don't do that and I move my body. But people see fat and think like gluttonous
Mhm.
and no like pride or self-respect or care, but it's not like that at all. And it baffles my mind how people assume so much based on weight, whether it is health, fitness, or lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting thing what you say there about like it gives us this impression of like gluttony. Like
Mhm.
I think that is the one of the easiest traps that people fall into if they have never been in a bigger body themselves. Because like when I was 3 stone heavier than I am now, I wasn't living a gluttonous lifestyle. Like the reason that I ended up putting weight on was mainly because I was depressed. Like I was
Yeah.
depressed and I was emotionally eating. Like it's like that is why one puts weight on. Like I was eating more calories than I was expending, but it was because I didn't have any emotional regulation tools. So it was more to do with my emotional regulation than it was to do with any sort of gluttony. Like I wasn't just like living, living the life and eating meals out every day. It wasn't the case of like I was eating like Henry VIII. It was I was crying into a chocolate bar. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I think we need more compassion and we need more empathy when we talk to people about weight, and like we have these perceptions and these like preconceptions about people, and they're not true. Like they are not based in facts, they're based in feelings that they must be doing something wrong. But I think this probably also comes from the idea that we feel there is a almost a feeling of superiority if you have not been to that point. Like it's like, oh well, I haven't let myself go, I haven't done all these things, and it gives this like contradiction that's just not true.
Yeah. And I think it just highlights why it's so important to have people of different bodies doing professional fitness jobs and work and personal training, because you do get some people who genuinely believe that they are better. They're a better human being because they haven't ever been fat. And it is just not true. Because, like you say, it could be emotional eating, or it might be that someone's physical health is so poor because they've got various conditions that they can't exercise, which then impacts their mental health, which then means they eat more and then they can't exercise, so they eat more. Um, for me, I've I've always been I was always a chubby kid, and I'm not quite sure as a child, like a young child, why that was. And maybe there's something to do with family and habits and things like that culturally. But as an adult or as a child that was more aware of what I was doing, I would eat as like a form of self-harm. So I didn't emotionally eat in the sense of like crying into a chocolate bar trying to cheer myself up with food. I would eat that chocolate bar with the intention of injuring my body. And so I do wish that in a world where many, many people now have access to weight loss medication, I wish that the NHS, the government, whoever makes these big decisions would invest as much in the mental health side of the healthcare system. Because it, for me and for the people I work with, it always comes back to mental health, always. And if you can't sustainably change and work on your regulation and your emotions and your coping strategies, and to redirect from that emotional eating or self-harm eating, binge eating, into something that is not going to kind of make you into something, I don't want to say better, but into something kind of more productive or safer, or just a new way of navigating, that will do so much more, I think, to the population. as a whole, because I worry that people are on so much of a path to look a certain way that they neglect how they feel.
Mhm.
And yet the two are so linked.
Yeah, I think it's the how you feel in yourself doesn't necessarily come at a certain body weight, but yet we act like it does. One thing I always say is when like I work with someone and they have a weight loss goal, I'm like, that's cool. We've got a weight loss goal. We use that as a number. If there's a number in mind, you've got a number where you want to head. That is absolutely fine. That's our lighthouse. It's guiding us in the direction that we're heading in. If you get to 5 kg above that and you decide, no, we're done with weight loss, I'm absolutely finished, I'm not going to cry myself to sleep because you didn't get down to the weight that you initially stated when we started this journey 12 months ago.
Mhm.
I'm not going to cry myself to sleep if you get to that point and then say, actually, do you know what? I want to lose a little bit more weight. I'm not quite where I like want to be. I want to lose a little bit more. I think a lot of the time we get hung up on the numbers and actually we neglect the feeling and we neglect the feeling of actually how's your energy? How strong do you feel? How much does your body ache? Are you getting aches and pains where you shouldn't be getting aches and pains? Like, and what is it that we actually need to address to solve those problems? Because sometimes it is weight loss and sometimes it's actually you don't need to lose weight, or what you need to do is just move your body because you've been sat on your ass doing nothing because you work from home and do 1,000 steps per day. So like
Mhm.
sometimes weight loss is the answer and sometimes it's just, well, actually it's nothing to do with that. It's the behaviors that we actually need to shift and change and they will improve your life whether you lose a kilogram or not. Like, and that's the main thing. Like the one thing that I hope that everybody that works with me leaves is that they have a better relationship with their habits and they have a better relationship. Their habits and their inputs have improved. I'm not really bothered where your outputs end up. Like, of course, if we have a weight loss goal, I would love for us to hit that weight loss goal. But like, as long as your behaviors have improved, like if you came in and your habits were at I don't know, you were walking 5,000 steps per day, but you leave and you're doing 8, what a win.
That's
Like
amazing.
your
Yeah.
your health metrics have improved so much by those inputs. And I think we get obsessed with numbers and we get obsessed with outputs, and we live in a world where we think that we can see health, but actually I think you feel health more than you can see it.
Yeah, definitely. And there are so many factors that can influence somebody's weight that isn't actually just them making a decision to eat a certain food or
Hmm.
making a decision not to do an extra 10 minutes at the gym. Um, I think that there's also an amount of understanding or just a lack of understanding of the effect of like medication side effects and how that genuinely can affect your body weight, whether it increases your appetite, whether it kind of makes you feel so nauseous that you can't eat certain foods that you were eating, you have to change your diet. And there are a lot of factors. And I think that, yeah, if we're driven by numbers and seeing change, but if we can try and almost put a number value on something like, well, steps has a number, but on how you feel, like if you could rank how you feel every day, even if, let's say, your weight goes up because you're on medication for whatever condition, um, but actually, when you wake up, you feel a 6 out of 10 instead of a 2 out of 10 because you are trying to fuel your body in a better way or you're doing a few more steps and actually you're getting stronger. That is amazing. Yet society would have you think that's not good enough because actually you're putting weight on. Um, and that's the problem, is that
Yeah.
issue there. But
Yeah.
you know how your body feels and it should always be about feel. Even when it comes to lifting weights in the gym. So I have some clients, I predominantly work with neurodivergent people. They are my like people who come to me and I love working with them. But it's really hard because sometimes, and you'll know this, I'm assuming biologically a woman probably have hormonal cycles, periods, things like that. Yeah. So I can go to a gym one day, pick up the same weight I picked up last week and it feels 10 times heavier. And you can easily fall into this thing of thinking, what's happened? I'm not strong. I've gone backwards. But actually, if we even just ignore the numbers on the weights, all you've happened to do that day is you've picked up a weight that's too heavy for you today because it feels too heavy. So just drop down, find one that works for you. Ignore the numbers. Ignore the fact it was 10 last week and now it's 6. Ignore it. If it feels right today, go with it. And if it feels that you can push to the place that you want to be pushing to, whether that's, pushing to failure or getting a solid 10 reps, whatever your kind of plan is, go by feel, because it is feel actually, unless you're genetically male and just have good genetics in general, where you are able to kind of just push and continually improve. Most people don't have that. There are things that happen that mean you don't. So, yeah, I think feel is so underrated.
Yeah. And I think like that also takes into account, even if you are, say you're on something that like completely eradicates your periods or you don't have periods or whatever, you will have times where you have had a really stressful week at work and your sleep has been impacted and therefore you wake up and
Yeah.
go to the gym and you just don't have enough energy. Like you can still go by feeling
Hmm.
those situations. And I think that's so important what you've just said, that like actually you need to go by how you feel on the day in the moment and not just be judging it and going, well, actually I should be lifting an extra 2 kilograms today because I
Hmm.
should be progressively overloading in this way. And it's like, be a person. Like it's okay to be a person and like exist in the moment when you are like lifting weights. And it's okay to say, I'm going to take a step forwards today, but it's equally fine to say, I'm going to take a step back. And I think we often think we can get a little bit too zoomed in on what's happening in that micro moment rather than what's happening in the context of the big picture. And that's why it's so important to, yes, be important how you feel on the day, but also when you feel like beating yourself up for not having the best gym session of your life, you actually then just zoom back out again and go, well, actually, if I look at where I started, I'm now lifting 10 kg heavier than what I was before. I'm now walking an extra 3,000 steps per day than what I was before. I'm now drinking an extra 500 ml of water than what I was before. And like all of this is progress and like it's context. And we get really obsessed with like the day to day, the nitty gritty. And like we do sometimes just need to zoom out and look at that big picture as well.
Yeah, and I think, when you mentioned, some days you can take that forward step, some days you can take that back step. I always think as well, if you're able to acknowledge that today you need to go lighter, that actually is a step forward, because would you a year ago have even been able to acknowledge that that is too heavy? And so you're going to take that kind of lighter weight, or you're going to, I don't know, like just actually prioritize how you feel again, like is a step forward in a way. And I think it's that the kind of language around it as well is so important, because it isn't a step back. Like it is actually such how amazing that you have been so tuned into how you feel that you've been able to realize that your plan A today is not right. So you're going to go plan B, but actually it's actually moving you forward towards that place of what we're all after, which I guess is to feel just happy and content and balanced and good. So it's great. And yeah, it's fascinating. Like if I could go back to university and redo that aspect of my life, I think psychology or something like that would be where I go, because it's fascinating how our brains work.
It really is. So just kind of like switching gears a little bit. Let's say that we're in that scenario where you are in a bigger body and you're walking into the gym for the first time and it feels overwhelming. What are your kind of like your top tips, your first kind of steps to take so that actually you feel like you can take action and you don't just run back out of the doors?
So I think there's a few things that, in fact, there's lots of tips I can recommend. But I keep it as kind of basic as possible. I think the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody is to make the first few visits as fail safe as possible, so that you're not ever needing to turn around and run back out. And so I say to everybody, book an induction. And I know it can be one of the most intimidating things, because you don't feel like you belong. So why would you want to book an induction to be shown around how to use stuff when you don't really want to be like singled out? But what that induction does, if we think back to when we're talking about comfort zones, it puts you in that environment with somebody safe who will show you around, which means that when you walk in that next time, you're going to know where the toilets are. If you do panic and just need a moment, you know where the lockers are, where the water fountains are. And a lot of the time, we get so stressed about kind of being in an environment that doesn't feel welcoming, that we don't know where anything is, which makes that environment feel even more hostile, because you don't know what to do if it all goes wrong. So book an induction is my first massive piece of advice. And the second one is, don't have any pressure. I genuinely feel every beginner should go into a gym that first time and just go to cardio and just go for a walk on a treadmill. Because there are going to be exceptions to this rule, but most people join a gym can walk unaided. And what that means is You can stand on a cardio, let's say a treadmill. You can usually very easily see the green go button. It starts super slow, like so slow that it feels unbalanced. So you have to go a little bit quicker. But even if you just did 5 minutes, that 5 minutes allows you to look around and
Yep.
just take in the environment, because it is about feeling safe. And the long-term plan would be that you don't stick on the cardio machine. You're not going to join the gym and just do cardio. But at first, 5 minutes walking is doable for most people. And if you do that 5 and you're like, this is okay, I'm doing all right, do 10. And if you do 10, you can do 15. But the moment you feel like this is enough, you have permission to leave, because you don't want to, I don't want to say overstay your welcome, but that the first few times are going to be like the make or break of you being able to go back. So leave when you're feeling good. Don't overdo it. So you can go back the next time and do the same thing, knowing that you can do that. And then if you can do 2 minutes more, great. That's progress. And you can build up that way. And the confidence comes from being in that environment.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think one of the things that made me confident in the gym was spending time in the gym. And that happened when I worked in a gym. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting that you go get employment in a gym. But like when I was spending 80 hours in a week in a gym, I got a lot of exposure therapy to a lot of different kinds of exercise, to moving a lot of weight around, to doing things in a gym. And like, if you are wanting to get more confident in the gym or get more confident with exercise, spend time in the gym. Like you can
Yeah.
watch as many TikToks as you want, you can watch as many reels as you want, but like actually being in there and immersing yourself in the environment, even if that is just on a treadmill for 5 minutes, you are getting your bearings in the gym, and that will build so much confidence, like in you and how you feel in that environment, and that those are the steps forwards. Um, I guess I think we should touch on this because I think this is probably an experience that a lot of people will people will potentially have, or will have the preconception that they will have. If someone makes a comment about you being in the gym and you being in the gym as a person who is taking up more space, how do you respond to that? And how do you respond to that for yourself to protect your own mental health?
I think that you need to remind yourself that your fitness journey is your fitness journey, and that actually people are going to have opinions on everything from what you look like to what you weigh to the color of your car to what your front door is in your house. You cannot please all of the people all of the time. And I've got a really kind of good example of this. So in my social media, I get trolled a lot. And sometimes it is from troll accounts, bots, so you can tell they've got a blank profile. Fine. I don't really care about that. They'll troll anybody. Sometimes it's from like gym bros. So or other personal trainers, and not everybody, but there's going to be some people that you just can't please no matter what. And I have this video, so I try and make everything I do accessible for people, even people who can't even book a gym induction because the anxiety is that high. So my approach is very tailored towards extremely anxious people. And so I will meet people outside, for instance, before an induction to bring them into the gym because they can't even walk through the door. So that's the way everything I post is for very straightforward, easy to follow things. Now, I posted a video doing leg press in the gym, and I think it's important to show a bigger body like me. I'm not just a qualified personal trainer. I also train in the gym, because some people seem to think that I just have the bit of paper that says I can do it, but I don't actually do it myself, which is a complete, not right. I do it.
What do you mean? You don't look like you
I
exercise.
know. I know. How are you fat and a personal trainer? And their mind explodes.
It's like
So,
a Venn diagram, but the circles never touch.
oh, I know, right? Crazy. So I doing this leg press, and I think it was at about 200, and I was doing 10 reps. So, I was quite happy with it. Someone comments and says, that's not even half a rep, because look, your stomach blocks your legs. Now, I know when I'm on the machine, because I'm on a plate loaded piece of kit. So I'm lying relatively underneath it and I'm bringing it down. And if you've ever been on one of those, you'll know that there's a limit to how low it goes. There's literally safety that stops it crushing you. And so no matter what body fat size is sat on that seat, which is always the same position, it's only going to get to here. So even if my stomach is in here, it's not going to actually go any lower. And so I take the same video, the exact one this person's commented on. I zoom in because you can see the safety on this video. The angle has it right there. And I zoom in and I put it there, and you literally see it almost touching. Now, you don't let it touch because you don't want to lose that feeling. So, you will know that you will find that place and you push before it actually clicks in. But it's pretty much touching every rep. And I repost it and I tag this person in because I try and use the trolls as free marketing assistants,
Yeah, nice.
because it helps with exposure. So I will take certain comments and I will respond a talking head or do a video, whatever, because they'll comment back. It's all good for the algorithm. So I did this video and I was like, here's the same video that you've said this on. Here's the safety. Like, what are people seeing? They're seeing fat. They don't see anything else. And the person comments back again. He's like, well, it's still not good enough. Well, tell me what's good. Like, so your issue is that I was doing a half rep because I'm fat. Actually, it's not a half rep because I'm showing you the evidence, the actual video evidence, but it's still not good enough because I'm fat. So I would say to somebody, if anybody comments, like, your weight does not determine your worth. Your weight does not determine your ability to do the things and be flexible and to lift the weight. And so anybody, no matter what they look like or what they weigh, should feel safe to take up space in the gym. And if you take up more space than somebody else, well, so be it. You have a right to exist there. And you're in that environment to improve your health. So it's not like you've gone in, got on a treadmill, laid down on it, opened up a can of beer, started eating crisps. You're in a gym. Like you belong. Anybody belongs in a gym. And I just think that, yeah, it's other people's problem. You do not need to feel bad or any way for anyone else's informed dickhead comments.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
That's
like
it.
the one thing to think about there is like you are paying the same membership as every other person in that gym. Like you have just as much right to be there as anybody else that is in that gym. So just remember that, like when you are like being made to feel small or like you don't belong in there, like you belong just as much as anyone else does. And the other thing I think just to touch on there is that you are in a space that like is actively if there is any space that would improve your health, one would assume that would be a gym. And a lot of the time that people have problems, they have a problem with you being like fat because they think that it is unhealthy. So where would you
Mhm.
improve your health? It would be the gym. So they're making comments about you being in the and it just doesn't add up, and it says way more to do with them and their illogical argument than it does anything to do with you and your worth and your body. And I think it is really hard, and I can imagine that if you are getting these comments consistently and it just feels like they are like overwhelming, it's really hard to let that roll off your back. But as much as you can, just let that roll off and just go, no, I belong here just as much as anybody else.
Yeah. And I think if you are at a gym and you're getting constant comments, my advice would be go and tell the manager, because gyms should be safe places. And if members or staff are saying things, then please tell somebody. And if you can't do it, like ask a friend to send an email in or anything. But I always think about it like this. If you go out for a meal and you ask for no chili in whatever it is, and they serve it and it's full of chili, if you don't say something, actually, they're not going to know. And if they don't know, then they can't make it right. And it usually is a genuine mistake that somebody's done something, whatever. And that mistake will continue to happen until that time somebody speaks up and says, oh, just need to let you know that actually. So I just wish that people could have that confidence of knowing they belong and actually reporting people who do that, because it is fat phobia
Yeah.
and it's awful. And like you say, it is where people go to improve their health. It is. And it's so odd. And there are some lovely gyms out there. And I'd also say if you are struggling, you can change gym. I would change, like potentially, if you can't complain or report them, if it's the manager, whatever, go to a different gym if you can, because gyms don't all have to be scary. I'd also say, having experienced a very private members only gym versus a chain gym, I actually think chain gyms are far easier to blend into the background and not stand out. So it sounds almost wrong to say it, but for people who are nervous, actually going to a bigger gym in a way can feel like you're more one of the crowd as opposed to somebody standing out because you're the biggest.
Yeah. I think one other thing just to highlight as well, so don't come off all this doom and gloom and it's going to be the worst experience of your life the first time you set foot in the gym, is remember as well, don't judge a book by its cover, even if you've had the experience with someone who looks like they might judge you. You say you book an induction and you get a PT that's a 6 foot guy who's absolutely stacked on stacked on stacked. He could also be the most inclusive guy that you have, like, you have ever spoken to. Like, I always like to give people the approach to let them prove me wrong rather than me preconceiving that they will do that, because the fitness community is getting more inclusive, whether you look like a very tan bodybuilder or whether you look like whether you look like you've never stepped foot in the gym in your life, even though you go regularly, according to all these preconceptions. Like, I think it's really important that we give everybody, don't let someone prove you, let someone prove themselves and let someone show themselves. Don't go in thinking, oh my god, I'm going to be judged, because you'll find that your brain will start looking to be judged rather than being going, actually I'm going to walk into this environment and it's going to be completely fine, and like chances are it will be fine. Like I don't want this to scare
Yeah.
you away from going into the gym.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it. So if you have the confidence already, no matter what your body size, like you don't need to do any of this. You can walk in and smash a workout. Like, but for people who are struggling to be able to do that, it is about just being prepared mentally for things that could come up and could happen. But what I would say as well is, of all my clients who are anxious, I'm bigger than them. So this isn't a problem that exists just for people in a bigger body. Anybody who struggles with confidence or body dysmorphia, whatever condition, like they're just as nervous and they're just as worried as being singled out and looked at and all of the things that somebody in a bigger body is worried about. But equally, just as that is the case, and there are people in smaller bodies just as anxious, there are also people in big bodies who are like, do you know what? I own this space, and they walk in and they bloody own it, and it's amazing. I follow and kind of work with on occasion someone called Lindsay McGlone, who's this kind of plus size advocate and very into inclusion. And I think she's a marketer kind of by trade, but the confidence that exudes there is what I aspire. And the way she conducts herself, the energy that she has, and she walks in and she feels sexy and attractive. And she's a big girl, and it's like that. You can be like that. You don't have to be anxious. I'm not saying it's a choice. I'm just saying that it's not like you're fat, therefore you need to do this. It's just kind of knowing that you belong is the main thing. And if you already feel like that, great, smash it, rock it. And if you don't, you will feel like that. Just put the steps in place to feel like that.
Yeah. And I think it's competence builds confidence. And if you have never spent any time in the gym, you've never looked at a dumbbell before and you don't know what you're doing, of course you're not going to feel confident. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be like if someone gave you the dentist's piece of equipment and said, can you give this person a filling? You're not going to feel confident to do that either. So like, it's the more time you spend in the gym, regardless of whether you're whatever background you're coming from, you're going to get more confident. So like, go spend the time in the gym. Like, if you want to be someone who has exercise as a habit, particularly lifting weights in the gym, go spend time in a gym. Like that when, like, you can switch gyms up, you can go into a commercial gym, you can try a private gym, you can try a private gym that's not a small boutique one, you can try a small boutique gym. Like, there are so many
Mm-hmm.
different options, especially if you live in a city. There are so many different options. So shop around, like, and you can also, at this time of year as well, some gyms will do free trials, so check out and see if there are any free trials and things like that, just to kind of get started. But yeah, have you got anything to add to the, like, kind of that point on being in a bigger body and taking up space and health, on that note?
I think I want to say kind of just make it yours. And by that, I mean, you kind of touched on it with, go try different gyms and spaces and environments, but also just don't worry if your friend does X and X feels enough for you, because it doesn't have to be the same as anyone else. And actually, you don't have to join a gym and you don't have to lift weights and you don't have to go on a treadmill. If you like walking outside or running, go and do that. Or if you really want to try rock climbing, go and find a rock climbing place and like do it safely, but go and do that. And I think we need to sometimes take that moment of like, what actually do I want to do, as opposed to what you feel you should do. Because I love the gym and I found myself in the gym. So my preference is the gym. I hate walking outside because actually outside for me is unpredictable. The weather changes, it can be slippy. I might stand on like a wobbly thing and fall over. I'm very like, I don't like change. I don't like unpredictability. Gym is safe for me because it's all very the same. It's always the same temperature, the same lighting. Might not be the best lighting, but it's always the same. Whereas other people hate a gym. They hate it. It's a horrible place for them to be because they feel cooped up. They get bored. They want to be outside with all this stimulus and just variety. That's okay. Like, go and do that and just have that confidence in yourself that you can make healthier decisions and healthier choices that are different to mine and different to yours and different to anyone else's. Like, think about what gives you joy when you move your body. And that's how it becomes sustainable as well.
Yeah, I think just to add to that as well, like there are ideals. Like ideally, you would be lifting weights twice a week. Ideally, you would be doing some sort of cardio, but any movement is better than no movement. So if it's the difference between like, all right, you go rock climbing 3 times a week and do like 90 minutes of exercise rock climbing, or you do nothing, go rock climbing. Like it is better than you doing nothing. Like, and then you will hear people talk about how you need to resistance train, you need to do the 300 minutes of cardio per week. Like, but if that is, again, if that is a difference between you doing nothing and doing something, do something. Like it's not about being perfect.
They're probably the same people that say we have the same 24 hours in a day. We do not.
I always think of the Molly make, like whenever it's the same 24 hours in the day. I really remember that going like rife in like what 2020, 2021 when she was in her height of fame. And yeah, so same 24 hours in a day. And it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
sure we do,
Really?
Molly. We'll definitely have home cooked meals all the time, and yeah, have a personal cleaner and live in a £1,000,000 house. Yeah, sure. Um, let's take the conversation a little bit over to neurodivergency, and we'll just kind of cover the same topic there. But like, how, if you are a neurodivergent person, you are finding, obviously, and that is the most blanket and open question ever. But like, if you are a neurodivergent person, how can you make the gym feel like a bit more of a friendlier space for you?
I think it is preparing for things that you know may be triggering.
Mhm.
And if we're assuming somebody is aware that they're neurodivergent, then they most likely will have an awareness on things that will be overwhelming or become sensory kind of issues for them. So I would honestly say just be prepared. And by that, I mean, if you know that you're noise sensitive, have headphones, have a backup pair of headphones in case your battery dies. Also, have like earplugs or something as another backup. Have that kind of aspect covered. If you know that you struggle in busy environments because you don't like people being too close to you and in your personal space, try and go to the gym in the quietest times. And most gyms or a lot of gyms will have an app that will say how many people are in the gym at that time. If they don't, you can ask personal trainers, gym staff. We know when the gyms are quiet or quieter. I work at a gym in Wolverhampton. I'm going to be honest, it's busy a lot. It's very busy all the time, but there are times within the day that are quieter than certain times. So if you know that that is going to be something you're going to struggle with, or if you don't do well when plans need to change, because say you are following a plan from a personal trainer with a set structure and you need to go and do a lat pull down and you go there and someone's on it, some people can't go and ask them, how many sets have you got left? Or can I work in with you? That then becomes a barrier because they can't change that plan in their mind. So going at a quieter time means there's a better chance of all the equipment being available for them to use when they need it. I think having a personal trainer who is mindful or has an awareness of neurodivergence and what that might mean can be a game changer, because they can create a safe space for you and you won't have to ask questions like, how many sets have you got left? That sort of thing. It's hard because everyone's neurodivergence is different. And I know you touched on that. But I think it is about thinking, what do you think you need to set yourself up to be able to succeed and do that? And the kind of the opposite of what I've just said is that if you don't want to go and be in the gym and you feel safe doing a class, go and do classes. That's okay. I hate classes. I hate them so much because I struggle to exercise in front of people. But some people won't go in the gym because they feel as though people are watching them, but they can exercise in a group, everyone doing the same thing. So it's knowing what feels best for you. And if you don't know, you can try different things and you always have permission to walk out. And I say this to people all the time who want to try a new class. It's like, yeah, go. But if it's too much or there's too much pressure from the instructor, because I know some instructors will go over to people who do take an extra break and be like, come on, carry on, push, push. And for some people, they need that and they want that. That's why they go to a class. But for other people, that actually is not going to be good for them at all. And so I want everybody who ever listens to this to know they have permission to get out and like get up and leave something. No one's going to think, anything of it other than the fact like you've had to leave. Okay, they've had to leave. Fine. Maybe someone will ask if you're all right next time, but you're not going to deeply offend anybody for getting up and going. And so if you don't know what you need, try different things and try a class and try the gym and try different classes or try swimming. Like, what's the worst thing that will happen? You can get out and go. It's fine. And so I've just made this thing, I call it the sensory safe strength system. And it's like an 8-week kind of self-driven plan that somebody can get. So they don't need to talk to me. They can just like buy it as a thing. But it will take them from not being able to go into the gym for the first time to consistently going in 8 weeks. And I've had people do this who genuinely now go to the gym unaided on their own, and they love it because it takes them through so many different things that they just can consider that will help them when they're there. And it works. And it's things like having this awareness of what you need and just having those things in your gym bag and like having a fidget that's there and not worrying about tracking if tracking isn't your thing and it's overwhelming. Like there are just so many things you can do, but you need to know about them. But that comes from knowing yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to say is that if you know things about yourself outside of the gym, those things will possibly apply in the gym. If you like tracking data, like I love data. So like if I'm looking at like an opportunity to track data and see how I can beat my personal best, fuck yes, I am there. But like if I was someone who didn't like tracking data at all and all of a sudden I was trying to like crowbar my interest in data in, like you're just not going to enjoy it. So like find the bits that you enjoy and take them into the gym. If you like to gamify things, gamify things. If you like to take things super easy and just go have fun somewhere, go do that. If you like structure, have structure. If you don't like structure, don't have structure. Like it's the whole point, and I hope that this has come through the whole episode, is just move your body in a way that feels good for you. There are no right and wrong ways to do it. You are a person who has a body and it is your job and responsibility to move that body in a way that feels good for you.
Yeah. And it is absolutely okay for that to look very different to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like that is so important that everybody will exercise in a different way. And like what feels good for you will not necessarily feel good for everyone else. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to add to that in terms of like neurodivergency or just making the gym feel like a safer space?
So I think a lot of it comes from the whole just starting and doing. What I would say is if you want actually a person to support you, most gyms will have PTs and will have somewhere, whether it's on a website or in the gym itself, like a PT board or some information where you can read up on different PTs and what they offer. And if you do want support, I would really say don't just go to the one that happens to be on shift that day. If you can find out what people specialize in, go and have a read, because I know from doing this now that if somebody is neurodivergent, they will say it in their bio because they know the challenges that exist. And if somebody used to be bigger, they will say it in their bio because it's a selling point for their business. But what that means is without promising, but you are in safer hands than just the random person who might happen to be the right one. I'm not saying they won't be, but make an informed decision, because personal training and getting kind of one-to-one support isn't a cheap investment and you don't have to have it. But if you do, just go and take that time and maybe ask a couple of questions about people's experiences, or has someone, because say you do want to do bodybuilding and you're autistic, let's say there's a bodybuilder personal trainer, but they don't mention neurodivergence, doesn't mean you can't work with them, and they might be great for you, but it just means maybe you'll want to find out a little bit about them first. So ask them, what's your process like? How do you run a session? And if you're able to feel comfortable enough to ask those questions anyway, that could make a really big difference to your progress and your enjoyment of doing it. Because at the end of the day, it should all be fun. It doesn't have to be horrible and scary and intimidating. It might be if you step onto a stage for the first time, but that's because you've got there, and
Yeah.
that's what you want to do. It doesn't always have to feel like that every time you have a session. So just, yeah, find somebody that aligns with what your goals are. Um, and I think that is kind of the biggest piece of advice as well when it comes to getting help and support.
Yeah, as you said, they're like gym websites, gym boards in the gym, like there tends to be descriptions, but also check out people's social media. Like I
Yes.
don't really know anyone that doesn't use social media these days, like as a coach or a PT or like whatever capacity they work in. So yeah, just go see what they're saying about things.
Go with
That
the
gives you-
vibes.
yeah,
Yeah, the vibes of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and like that
Yeah.
usually gives you a good clue of like whether they are an inclusive person or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can
Um,
can be almost as clear cut as that, actually. It's like, are they posting content that feels good to you or feels crap? And if it feels crap, you're probably not going to like spending time with them no matter how good they look.
Yeah. And if they're any good at marketing as a PT, then they will also talk about the things that are important to them and their values. So yeah,
Yes.
that will be even clearer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like it is super important that you obviously find someone that's a good fit. And I think like with anything, if you work with someone and they're not a good fit, that's not the end of the world. Like don't think that that is it, that every experience that you will now have, every PT is the same. Like that is 100% not the case. It's really important that you find someone that you fit well with, and you don't have to fit well with them forever. Like I have had clients that I've worked with and we've come to the end of their journey, and they've then gone on and worked with another coach. I have one client that I think she lost about 20 kg with me. And then she has now gone on to go do bodybuilding because I am not a bodybuilding prep coach. Like it's like you can work with people for periods of time. That is okay. You don't have to stick with the same person and think, oh, I have to see this person through my entire, they are now my weight loss guru and fitness guru and
Hmm.
everything else guru. Like you can change where you are, you can change your mind on things, and like that's okay. And like it's all about finding what fits for you in this season of your life.
Yeah. And also, so from a personal experience, when I left that boutique gym and I went to the chain gym, which is actually where I work now. So I joined there as a member first. I think I just had ad hoc, random personal training sessions with this guy who is a massive bodybuilder and a power lifter. And his physique is amazing. And I still work with him. He's lovely. He's about 6 foot something and gorgeous. He's lovely. Um, but I went to him because he'd been the one who had like said hello and smiled at me and made me feel safe. And I went to him with the premise of, look, I've come from a very different gym. We didn't have any plate loaded kit, and there's a lot of plate loaded kit here. And I want to use it, but I don't know how to use it safely. I don't need to be pushed. I don't need a big plan. What I want is to have a couple of sessions where you, as someone who works here and knows this equipment, can show me how to use it safely. Um, and we did that, I think, maybe 4 times. And then it got to a point where it was becoming more just personal training and I didn't really need or want that. So I stopped having them and now I qualified, now I work with him. But you don't have to go and have a coach, a weight loss coach or, confidence coach or a personal trainer with a big goal in mind. It can be actually just to start a process for yourself. And if you want to stick with them, great. But it can just be to build confidence in whatever aspect of life it is that you're looking to build confidence in.
Yeah, and I think like the other thing to remember there is that there are different coaches for different things. So I predominantly work with people to lose weight. So if you want to lose weight, I am a very good coach for that. If you want to go to a powerlifting competition, I am not your gal. Like, and like think of it as like if you had an issue, if you had a broken arm, you would want to go to the hospital. You wouldn't want to go see a dentist. So like it's about going to the right kind of doctor, or
Yeah.
in this case, the right kind of personal trainer. Um, but yeah, so let's get, kind of like wrap things up here. Thank you so much for coming on first off. Second off, this is a question that I just ask to everybody, and I'm really curious to know what it is for you. But what does being healthy mean to you?
I think that being healthy is all about finding strength and acceptance in who you are. And it is almost as short and simple as that because it shouldn't be about changing yourself to fit in or be what people expect. It's just about you feeling like you are strong and you do belong and you should be here and you should take up space in the world. And to me, that is health.
Yeah. I like that. Short and sweet. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If people would like to connect with you, they'd like to drop you a follow on Instagram, whatever, where's the best place to get you, or where are the best places to get you?
So Instagram and TikTok are where I'm most active. My username tag is exactly the same on both. It's Rhiannon Cooper PT. You'll probably pop it in the show notes, I would have thought
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
But you will know you're at the right place if you see lots of pink. Pink's my colour. So that's a good factor or kind of determining thing that you found the right place. I'm also quite active on LinkedIn. So if anyone listens and they are more LinkedIn focused, because it's a very different platform, but having only done this for like the last few years, I've got quite a businessy background. So I'm also on there and I love to reach out to people on there too. And then my website is like a hub of resources and guides, and I try and give as much out for free as possible. So if you are anxious and nervous or plus size and don't know where to start and you need a bit of help, but you can't afford help because we know that it's so hard to live right now, please go and check out the notsotypicalfitness.co.uk website and look for the free resources and guides, because there is so much value in there that will just help you at whatever it is that you need help with. And if there isn't the right thing there, let me know, because it's probably scheduled to land at some point and I can share it with you first. So
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Rhiannon. It has been such an interesting conversation and I really appreciate your time. If you have enjoyed this episode of the podcast, please give it a 5-star rating or review and make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you never miss a future episode of the podcast. But otherwise, have an absolutely fantastic day and I will catch you in the next one.